Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor Masterclass. This is a platform where we learn from the best. These individuals are trailblazers and change makers whose leadership and entrepreneurship provides teaching moments and inspiration. We will learn from their journeys, their failures, and their successes. The Institute of Chartered Accountants is celebrating its centenary, and we will be learning from a select group from this body whose journey embodies the ethos of the profession. Joining us today is Manyara Chigunduru, founder and managing director at Marion Hill Chartered Accountants. Enjoy this masterclass.
I am Manyara Chigunduru, and this is my masterclass. The key milestones that I experienced for me to become a chartered accountant, I think it all started when I went to the University of Zimbabwe. But let me hasten to say that when I went to the University of Zimbabwe, I was coming from an arts background. I didn't have any experience in commercial subjects. So my first day at the University of Zimbabwe doing accounting was the first time that I came across commercial subjects. So the greatest challenge was getting into class with people who already knew what accounting was all about. And here I was, having done Shona Geography and Divinity. Yes, I had scored 15 points, but it wasn't easy because it meant that I had to study very hard. Whilst others were going to play, I was supposed to be at the library to ensure that at least I get to the level where they were. And I can say doing my Bachelor of Accounting was not easy, especially my first year. It was really difficult trying to understand the technical jargon for me coming from Shona, doing geography, doing divinity. It was not easy. And I remember when I was writing my first exam, I cried because I didn't know what I was going to write. And I remember at that time I actually went outside because I had all the documents, I had all the papers to practice and to do everything that needed to be done. But to some extent, I couldn't figure it out to then say, what is it that I'm supposed to do here? And my prayer as I was crying was, Lord, just help me to pass through this hurdle. And then when I go into my second year, I should be able to then pick from where I have left. And I want to thank God that I managed to sail through my first year. And then I went into my second year, and I then went into my third year. And then I became a graduate with an honors degree in accounting. But from there, I went straight into industry and commerce because I wanted to help my parents. I was coming from a very humble background. And looking at my dad, looking at my mom, I felt that I had an obligation to help them. So for me, it made a lot of sense to go straight into industry and commerce. Not that I had not heard about the ICAZ qualification, but believe you me, I felt that it was not important at that time because all that I got from those who had walked that journey was that there was no money, you're just going there for training and then that's it. And then looking at my background, I said, you know what, let me just go straight to industry and commerce. I'll just do a graduate trainee program and then I'll grow from there. But when I then got married in the year 2002, and I was doing my graduate trainee program, yes, I completed it. Everything seemed to be going on well. But I then realized that I could not get promotion simply because every time any opportunity would arise within the organization where I was, even if when I applied for that position for an accountant, I could not get it until one day I approached the human resources just to have an appreciation to understand why things were happening like this. And I was told point blank that, Manyara, you know what, on this particular position, we need somebody who's got a minimum of articles. If you don't have articles, then you can't be an accountant here. And I said, but you know what, you trained me. I am your graduate trainee and here I am. Why can't you just give me that position? And I'm an assistant accountant for that matter. And they said, no, these are company rules, so we can't take you on. So I got frustrated to then say, you know what, we teach these accountants when they come here, we tell them what needs to be done when they come here, and the company is not even prepared to promote me to that position. And I remember discussing with my husband, and I was telling him to say, you know what, I'm just frustrated. I want to leave this company, I want to go somewhere. And then he simply said, you know what, Manyara, why don't you just apply to any indigenous firm? And so we did, as he said, we applied and one firm responded. And I went there, I was interviewed, and I got the place. Let me hasten to say that when I moved from the company that I was working for, I was earning about 250,000 at the time, and that was around 2003. And I moved to get 60,000 gross. So you can imagine, and I remember speaking to my husband and I was saying, our budget, what are we going to do with our budget? Because my salary has just gone down from 250,000 to gross 60,000. And he said, you know what, Manyara, don't worry, we'll adjust our budget. What I want is the best for you, because I don't want you to keep on complaining. Even when you go to the other companies, you continue to be an assistant accountant, and that's not what we want. You want to grow. So let's adjust. So I moved and I walked that journey. What was difficult was trying to balance the two. You are a student. You are doing your articles. You are a mother. You are a wife. You would have this guilt conscience every time you are leaving your baby at a certain time, every time you are leaving home at a certain time, and you are coming home maybe around 10 p.m. You would have this guilt conscience to then say, I'm not being fair to my child, or I'm not being fair to my family. But I want to thank my husband, because he kept on saying, you know what, Manyara, don't worry about all these things. The time will come when we have all the time in the world to play with the kids. And believe you me, I've got enough time to play with my kids right now. When you are training for articles, it's not like you are just doing the work anyhow, but you have got a specific program that you need to follow. There are certain competencies that you must have as a chartered accountant. Because for you to then qualify as a chartered accountant, there are certain like technical competencies, if I can put it that way, and also professional competencies, which you are also trained on. Like, for example, you need to know how to apply international financial reporting standards. You need to know how to apply international standards on auditing. But at the same time, you are also supposed to put in the time and the hours. And sometimes it entailed working overtime. It entailed going out of Harare and being in maybe in places like Gweru, Blawayo, and the like. So you can't say, no, I can't go because of this. But the good thing is, from a woman's perspective, they respected that I had a child. So when I could not go out, they would understand that. But what then happens is, as you are doing your training, you have got certain performance reviews that then take place, whereby they review you on your professional competence. They also do a review on your technical competences. So at the end of the day, these training records are then taken to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe. Then they can then say, okay, we are happy with all the competencies that you have gone through. So now you can become a chartered accountant, and we are discharging you for everything that you have done. To the young women, all I can say is, you have everything that can make you to be a chartered accountant. And it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or not. So being a woman should not stop anyone from being a chartered accountant. So I would encourage them to give it a go. If that is what they feel inside them, they should go for it. People can say a lot of things. They can talk about this rigorous practical training. But if other women have gone through it, I have gone through it, you can also go through it. As long as you are determined to make things happen, you are focused, and you are prepared to put in the hours, you can do it. Being a member of ICAZ has helped me a lot. Because for your own information, when I was working for a financial institution where I was a finance manager, by merely being a member of ICAZ, that alone raised the flag. People will give you the respect that you require. And at the end of the day, as long as you are able to do your work and you are able to show that you are technically competent, and even from a professional point of view, you are also competent. And maybe moving out of the corporate world and going into entrepreneurship being a business person that I am. For your information, I didn't even start by working closely with ICAZ, but I was working with other business member organizations like your Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. And you'd find out that by just being there as a chartered accountant, that alone also had the respect that was also given. So at the end of the day, you'd find out that people would hold you with high regards because they feel that we are the advisors. Where it concerns issues financial, where it concerns governance issues, people would actually come to you. So you'd note that by being a member of ICAZ, there was this respect that came with it, simply because you're a chartered accountant.
The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ, presents the membership card benefits. This membership card can also be presented and used to access certain privileges and discounts with selected providers as follows. As an ICAZ member, you may access your digital membership card on the My ICAZ app, which is freely available on App Store and Google Play Store. Arrangements to collect the physical card can be made with the ICAZ offices and with chapter representatives for those outside Zimbabwe. Your institute will continuously seek ways to improve preferential services linked to the card. Those wishing to offer their services can contact the following details.
When I'm looking at marrying your chartered accountants, it is something that came about because of a conscious decision that I did as an individual, but also as a family. Actually, I took up voluntary retrenchment in 2014. And I said, I want to give it a go. Even before marrying you, there were certain businesses that we had already started. For example, in events management, I've been doing events management. And then I felt that I could still do it. So when I left the organization that I was working for, the first thing that we did was to register Marrying Your Capital. Because first and foremost, we were saying, you know what, we just want to do advisory work. That's what we would want to do. That's Marrying Your Capital came into being. But later on, I also asked myself to then say, but I am a chartered accountant. I am a registered public auditor. It means I can also practice to be an auditor. So that means we can also start a firm that does audits. That is when we then applied to have a license to do audits. That is when then Marrying Chartered Accountants was born. That was in December 2018. If you are running a business, the challenges will always be there. That's what I can say. First and foremost, I was starting from scratch. The brand was not there. So here I was, and I was venturing into a field where there are already powerhouses. For example, you talk of the Big Four, they were already there, and some other local firms that were already there. So you can imagine that you are going into an ocean that is full of sharks. That's how I can put it across. And you're trying to convince people that I can provide the similar service, maybe even better, maybe even at a better rate. And you are going there. But some of the challenges that I experienced during the formative stages of Marrying Hill was that people didn't really believe in the story. They didn't believe in the firm because they felt that it was just a fly-by-night organization that was coming in. You can imagine going into a meeting and you are told by a potential client that, you know what, we don't want to be your guinea pigs. When you guys are serious, you can come back. And you have driven all the way to meet somebody, and that is what you are told. And the other time you are going into a meeting, you have driven all the way, but you are spending maybe 3 minutes in a meeting. You try to say this, it's blocked. You try to say this, it's blocked. So you'd find out that I even went to the people that I knew, whom I thought were also going to give me business, because they had promised when I left the organization, and they were saying, you know what, Manyara, when you start something, as you are saying, come back and we'll give you work. And I went back there, and the doors were closed. But there's one woman who then helped me, who then pushed me to be maybe where I am today. And I even give credit to that lady, Divine Dukula. She stood by me through thick and thin, even when people did not believe in this project that I was running with, even when they didn't believe in this organization. But she told me, Manyara, don't give up. As long as you believe in this vision, you know what, you can make it. I experienced the same thing with my organization. People didn't believe in having women as guards, but look at where Securico is at the moment. So just go with it. Don't worry about what people are saying. And then from a funding perspective, I think because we're still young, it was difficult to get funding because the banks will be looking at your history and all that, and even in terms of the revenues that were coming through. And banks were not really interested, especially in the formative years. You know, when you decide to do business, you must expect anything. Expect the unexpected. Expect that even the people who say they are going to help you will not help you. Also expect that even the very close people that you trust will help you will not help you at all. But there is the aspect of trust. For me, I trusted more in God to say that He will lead me through. I was going into a jungle that I didn't even know about. I didn't even know the animals that I was going to meet in there. But I trusted Him that He will walk with me, He will be with me. And even when people didn't believe me, even when people did not give me business, even at a time when I even wanted to give up, I went back to my Maker and I said, God, here I am. We started this thing together. Please see me through. Believe you me, surely I believe God sent people who could help me along the way. So the faith, the determination, and the belief to say this thing can go a long way. Just to believe that things can happen. I can say it really helped me. But there were times when I really wanted to give up. There were times when I even asked myself, is it worth it? Whilst I was working, I could get a salary. But here I am, there are times when I would go for 4 or 5 months. I don't have a client, I don't have money. So what do I do? But God always sends people who believe maybe in that vision. Because during those times, there were people who would even come and say, you know what, Manyara, we just want to work with you. That's what we'd want to do. Don't worry about paying us anything. You pay us when we have got a client that has paid. And at one point, there was a friend of mine whom I even approached to then say, you know what, I don't want to be working from home anymore. I want my firm to be more professional. And I need an office, but I don't have money to pay the rentals. And this friend of mine simply said, Manyara, you can come, you can use this office. Pay me rent whenever you have the money, but don't feel pressured to pay rent. So I believe that along the way, God will always send people who will close certain gaps which you feel maybe no one can close. But I believe that as long as you have faith and as long as you are determined to have something, the universe will even conspire to have those things happen. So for corporate strategy to be implemented well, management has to be deliberate, and they need to be very specific about what they would want to do. Why I'm also speaking about the tone at the top, it is because they are the custodians of the vision and the mission of the organization. And they are also the custodians of the strategy of the organization. So when the tone at the top knows what needs to be done, they also know how to cascade it downwards. And at the same time, they have an appreciation of the goals and the objectives of the organization, where they want to go and what they need to do. But in that process, it is also important to have buy-in from everyone who matters within the organization. You talk of your management, your senior management, middle management, and even junior management, as well as the other staff members. And sometimes even the person on the shop floor. They also need to have buy-in in whatever you'd want to do. So there is that need to have more like clear guidelines on what needs to be done, how it needs and how it needs to be done, and by when. Because a strategy without all those guidelines, without timelines, is no strategy at all. So when the tone at the top understands what needs to be done, you then have everyone else coming in. Why we bring everyone else in the strategy formulation, it is because, number one, they are the process owners, and they are also the strategy owners where it concerns their specific units, specific departments, or specific divisions. So you want buy-in from all these people. And then from there, you can formulate your strategy. How do you want to go there? But before you even do that, you need to know what is happening currently at the moment. Where have you come from? What has happened? Which things can you do and which things can you not do? You need to have an appreciation of your weaknesses as an organization so that you deal with those weaknesses. You need to have an appreciation of your strengths as an organization so that you enhance those strengths, know the opportunities, also know the threats. I'm talking about the SWOT of an organization. But remember, when you're looking at the SWOT, you're looking at the organization more like as a standalone legal person. But we need to have an appreciation that the organization is operating within a certain macro environment, which you also need to look into. So as such, you then need to look at the political aspect. What is happening within the jurisdiction that you're operating in? What are the issues? Because this will also speak to how we are going to move forward. You need to have an appreciation of the economic environment, the legal environment. You need to understand the technological aspects within that macro environment, such that as you craft your strategy, you have an appreciation of the battlefield where you will be operating from. Because you cannot go to war when you don't even know what the battlefield is like. You cannot go to war when you don't even know what your enemy is like. So it is very important for every organization that is crafting its strategy to understand the environment, whether it is the internal environment or whether it is an external environment, because it is from there where your strategy will come from. But you also need to understand where you have come from. What is it that you have done? Have you done it correctly? If you haven't, what went wrong? And what is it that you must do? That's how you then craft your strategy. But just merely crafting a strategy is no strategy at all if you don't then implement it. Because you need then to go ahead and do the implementation. But let me hasten to say that so many organizations have done strategy implementation, they've crafted strategy, but it has failed to kickstart for a number of reasons. It could be the organizational structure. Maybe it does not support implementation of strategy. It could even be the environment that you are operating in. It could even be the people who are supposed to run with the strategy. Maybe there is no buy-in or they just don't understand it. So we need to make sure that all those aspects are taken care of. Our structure can support the strategy. There is buy-in from our people. But also the processes that we are going to then follow as we're implementing our strategy, we also need to make sure that they are watertight. But then at the end of the day, you also need to do a review of your strategy as well, because you have planned to say that this is what you'd want to do, this is where you'd want to go. So maybe on a periodical basis, it is very important for every organization to come back and then say, we planned to do these things for this particular period of time. Did we do it? And if we did them, okay, well done, but we then need to continue to do the right things going forward. But if we messed up, then we need to learn from those mistakes which we would have made, and then we put in corrective action. So strategy is something that is continuous. It is not something that happens as an event. It is actually a process.
The Institute Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ has upgraded its systems, and ICAZ resident and or non-resident members who are also members of another similar institution are no longer requested to submit their declaration form when declaring their CPD hours at the end of each year, but are now requested to fill and submit their declaration online using the ICAZ website as follows. Visit www.icaz.org.zw. Sign in with your username and password. Click on your name as a way to refresh the account. Click on CPDs. Scroll down until you see where it says Declaration Form and click the plus sign on the far right. Fill in the form, click Save and Close. For any queries or inquiries of this notification, you can contact cpd@icaz.org.zw.
When somebody wants to be an entrepreneur, you want to start your business. I think it all starts with the belief that you can do something. And that belief, you put it into action. And when you put it into action, just expect that it's expected. Anything can happen, but learn from there. But in the process of putting things into action, it is important for someone to put their thought process on paper. That's what I believe in personally. Because I believe that if I can put something on paper, it can be done. But if I can't put it on paper and I can't express myself, then it becomes very difficult to then implement it. So it's important to put it on paper, maybe through what you call a business plan. You are simply lining up what it is that you want to do, what the business is all about, who are your competitors, how are you going to earn your revenues, and all that. But it's also important to have continuous learning, because you're always learning when you're a business person. So people should always try as much as possible to read through entrepreneurship articles and books, and they should also learn from other people, be part of networks, work with other people, and they can help you. And maybe coming to business mentorship, I think it also touches there as well, because when you're starting something, it's not that you know everything. You need to learn from other people who have walked the journey. Why reinvent the wheel when there are people who have already walked that journey? So you need to find people who can help you, people whom you can bounce your ideas with, and they can give you some feedback. Find people who are prepared to sit down with you, and they take you through the ropes. They tell you what can be done and what cannot be done. But certain lessons, they are very practical, because you actually need to go through some of these lessons so that you understand what can be done and what cannot be done. But issues to do with mentorship, I think any business person must have at least one mentor who can help them to move forward, to guide them on certain aspects of the business that they are not so sure of. When it comes to leading, I believe that I don't lead as an individual. I lead with my people. I lead with my team. So I am more of a situational person. It depends with the situation that is on the ground. Where the situation calls me to dictate, I dictate. But where the situation calls for me to work with other people, I work with other people. Because at the end of the day, what's important is the greater good of the organization. And you work with people, you implement through people as well. Everyone has failed one way or the other. I have failed in places where I never thought I could fail. I think over the years, the first time that I failed, I cried my heart out, because I was asking myself, why me? It could never be me. I was very intelligent, and maybe failing, especially my first sitting for CTA, it was disastrous for me, that's what I can say. But at the end of the day, when you fail, it does not mean that you need to sit at the bottom of the mountain and you keep on crying. Yes, you can sit and cry, but a time should come when you stand up, you dust yourself with your head held high, you then move forward. But also understand why you failed, so that you don't repeat the same mistake. So I have learned that failure does not necessarily mean that it's the end of everything, but it is simply telling me that there's something that I did not do right. So it is important for me to understand what happened and ask myself, what is it that I can do so that the same mistake cannot happen? But I can assure you, failure happens. I have failed so many a time, and I have learned to stand up again and move forward. Being involved with the Female Open Prison, I think it has also shown me that there are people out there who need us. I might be a chartered accountant, but whatever I have, I also believe that there is a specific purpose for the person that I am, because I believe that God did not create me for the mere reason of putting me on this planet, but there is a specific purpose that I must fulfill. And for me, I think I have found it in women. And looking at the female prisoners, yes, there are things that they have done which have put them where they are, but we should also not forget that there are people who also have feelings. They also need a good life even when they're in prison. So if we are able to help them one way or the other, then I believe the onus is on each and every one of us to see what it is that we can give back to the community. For me, it is a way of giving back to the community. I am a mother, and I have seen mothers who are in prison, who have got children in there. And I'm also asking myself, if I were in a situation like this, how would I want people to help me? That is what then also drives me to then say, let me help in the way that I can. Maybe I may not be able to provide certain material things, but by myself being part and parcel of the trust that even built this prison for women, it also helped me to see that things should not always be seen from a technical point of view always, but there should be empathy within us, so that at the end of the day, we are also able to serve other people in a way that God would want us to serve them. So it has opened my eyes also to see how certain organizations work, because I am coming from private sector, I am going into the public sector, into government for that matter. You learn things that things that I would never have come across have I not been part and parcel of the Female Open Prison. So I had learned so much on how certain things are done and how certain things are not done. So it's you're always learning at the end of the day. So everything is worth it when you look at it all. I think for me, the book number one, which I call my life manual, has been the Holy Bible. Because I am a practicing Christian, I am a Christian, and even in my journey, I have seen how God has walked with me on this particular journey. And for me, the Bible has got all the answers that I need, even where there are no answers. You go to the Bible, it will give you the answers. So that's my life manual, number one. And then I have read the 5 a.m. Club and also the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule, I think I like it most simply. I like it simply because it deals with procrastination when you don't want to make a decision. The 5-second rule has helped me that way. The 5 a.m. Club helped me to know that victory is done in the morning. You plan your day and you are done. If you want to do it late, then others already have their victory. Then I read books like Thinking Big, whereby sometimes we've got these wild ideas which we think that they can never be done. But by going through that book, I have realized that we need to continue to think big, because more often than not, that is where our emancipation is coming from. But the more we want to stay small, it means that we can never grow to be what we would want to be. So those were some of the books that I have read, including The Art of War. While it is talking about war, it is talking about organizational or corporate strategy that any organization can follow through.
That was a thought-provoking masterclass from Manyara Chigunduru. She got me thinking about the challenges of starting a new business, the importance of a supporting structure, supportive family, supportive players in the marketplace. I liked her outlining the importance of strategy formulation, buy-in from all team members, implementation and review of the strategy. I also liked her terminology around situational leadership. I hope you enjoyed this masterclass. If you did, please subscribe, like, share. Until next time, cheers to you all.